Okay, next to speak will be the 258 District Judge. First will be Travis Kitchens.
Thank you. Oh, okay. My name is Travis Kitchens. I would like to, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for your attention tonight. I've been asked to talk on behalf of Travis Kitchens, the judge. He doesn't really like talking about himself in public, unlike career politicians. But there's some things about him I think you need to know. 45 years ago this May, he graduated from Baylor Law School. Before that, he started college in 1970 in Austin on a music scholarship. That was cut short when he got run over by a car going home from class. On October the 8th of 1970, car won bicycle law school. I stayed out of a year and a half of college and changed my major from music to government, political science, and criminology. For the last 50 years, I've studied the Constitution, I've studied the laws, and that came in pretty helpful. After I got out of law school, my father, who was a career officer in the Air Force and retired and went back to law school, told me I should go to work for a prosecutor because I wanted to try great cases. So I went back to the board there at Baylor Law School, and there was an ad for a lawyer to come to Groveton, Texas. A person named Joe Price, who graduated from Baylor Law School in 1969, had the ad. I went to the gas station, and back then, people pumped gas in your car for you. And I got a tank full of gas in my 1970 Fiat 850, about 30 cents a gallon, and had a trunk full of parts, because every time that car went by a mechanic on duty sign it, wanted to stop and visit. So I made the 150-mile trip from Waco to Trinity, Texas, to meet with Joe Price in the building right across the street that at one time I think was a bank building. Stopped at the gas station to get gas. I get back to Waco and asked where this was. And back then, real friendly person filled up my gas tank and told me where the office for Joe Price was. So I parked and went in the office across the street. A young lady named Dina Bell was sitting there working for Joe Price. It was early afternoon. I found out later that Joe was not a morning person. He generally didn't like to go to the office too early. But nonetheless, I sat there and I waited a while, and I asked Miss Bell, I said, is he coming today? And she said, just sit down, he'll be here soon. And I made a mistake of asking the second time, and she said, I told you to sit down, he'll be here soon. So I sat down waiting. I had an interview with Joe Price. He asked me if I liked practicing law. I'd been out of law school at that point about 9 months. And I told him I'd rather play tennis. And so apparently that was the answer that got me a job. So I got a call a couple weeks later, but before that I drove back to Waco in my car. It made it all the way back. I didn't have to stop and try to work on the engine. It didn't see the mechanic on sale on duty signs. And I told my lovely wife Susan, who's sitting back here, we'd just been married a few months at that point in time. We've been married now over 44 years, and that's Patience of Job right there. But nonetheless, I told her, I said, I don't know if I'll get this job, but if I get this job, this is going to be an experience. Because Joe Price took me around Trinity. He took me around Lake Livingston. Told me about things here in Trinity County. And a few weeks later, Dina Bell called me and said, you've got a job. So I went down to the Educators Credit Union because I was a member of that, because when I worked at the Gatesville State School for Boys, I was able to join the credit union. And they gave me a loan to buy me a 1978 Datsun B210 hatchback so I could come to Trinity County. And Susan had about a month or so left at Baylor before she graduated with her teaching degree. And Joe got us a house out here at the Westwood Shores in what they call the Mud House. There were 3 little houses down there that they had to have homes. So we moved here. Her father from Austin, she was from Austin, her father brought her stuff out, and lo and behold, she had a piano. I didn't know she played piano. She never told me that. She met me. I played in a bluegrass band, progressive country band, and I found out when her father brought her piano that she was a classically trained piano. So, you know, that's my story of how I got to Trinity County. Being a judge is difficult. He will tell you, Travis will tell you, that you make somebody mad every time you make a ruling. Sometimes you make both people mad, and that might have been a good day. I take an oath as a lawyer. I took an oath as a prosecutor to protect, defend, and preserve the constitutional laws of the United States. And I do that. I studied the Constitution for 50 years. I hope you will re-elect me so that I can continue being your judge and enforce the law. I believe in strong law enforcement, but I believe law enforcement should comply with the constitutional laws as well. Thank you.
A timely, fair, and speedy trial is a cornerstone of our legal system. The COVID pandemic has brought the legal system to a grinding halt, and it is slowly moving again. What will you do to get the wheels moving at full speed and reducing the amount of indicted people awaiting trial in jail?
Well, as it's been set up for decades, there are 24 weeks of a year, and there's only so much jury time that's available because we serve 3 counties. We have to rely on prosecutors to evaluate cases and move cases along. We have to rely on them to know what cases they can go to trial with. Normally, about 90% of the cases resolve by plea bargaining agreements. And that's something that the defense attorneys and the prosecutor gets together and figures out. There's only limited time that the judge can have jury trials. I can't make the prosecution waive their right to trial. I can't make a defendant waive his right to trial. So the log jam in the system right now are the prosecutors.